You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I'm your host, Joe Abadi. I'm sorry I missed you last week, but we're back to bring you a good show tonight. As always, I want to thank Jordan Woodworth and Susie for making this all possible, as we're still sheltering in place during this time. Last Tuesday morning, we all woke up to the tragic news that Nancy and Marty Smith had passed away in a freak accident in a dune buggy in Southern California. Marty was the first American motocross star, and he began to ride to fame in 1974. It was once written that a candle, once lit, can light thousands and thousands of more candles without ever losing its light or its flame. Marty lit a candle in all of us. In all of us, he lit a candle, and it will never be extinguished. Nancy's personality was infectious. She was always a joy to be with. They were a perfect team. They'll be missed by everyone whose lives they touched. At this time, our condolences go out to their children, Brooke, Tyler, Jillian, of course, the other survivors in the family, including their grandchildren. I also would like to extend my condolences to Tammy and Lee Ramage, who happened to be there during that tragic time. There is a GoFundMe page set up. There's a link to it. It's available right there. You can see it on the slide. And we would hope that you would donate to that. I also spoke to Tyler Smith today, and he said to me to announce that if anyone who's running a race or has any intentions of doing any charities or doing any memorials for the Smith family, to please contact them. They want to know about it, so they can either be there or see it, just so they know what's going on. Probably the best place to do that, if you're going to have some kind of charity or memorial, would be to post it on the Marty Smith fan page, which was created by Mike Hoffman. Again, our condolences to the Smith family and to all our friends out there. We're going to miss you very, very much. Let's get down to the starting line. On tonight's show, we've got a couple of great things, and the next time, try this segment. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about polishing and how to do a good job doing that, especially before you plate. We're going to be taking a look at a video. Also, we have a segment tonight in the Moto Showcase where we have two bikes, a 72 CZ 400 and also a 1976 Yamaha MX 125. I'm looking forward to talking to you about those a little bit later in the show. Here's the problem. We've got some good questions this week that came in. We've got one that pertains to this 1976 YZ175. We've got some Honda Elsinore questions in there and a few other things. We'll be talking about it in just a minute. In the What's It Worth segment, I've been keeping an eye on YZ125s, 1974-75 for some time now. They're really starting to creep up. I'm going to tell you about this one that recently sold on eBay, what I thought was right and maybe not so right about it, but we'll be talking about that too. We'll be getting a live phone call from Whole Shot Donnie Hansen a little bit later in the show. We'll be talking to Donnie about some of the classes and schools he has coming up in the near future. Looking forward to speaking to my friend Donnie in just a little while. In the product spotlight, we've got Vmxq coming up with a rebuilt crank for an OSA. Actually, it's like new. It's brand new. It's not just a rebuilt crank. Wait until you see this. I'll read more about it to you. Also, Preston Petty. We've got a special from Preston Petty tonight. We've got the halogen headlight. You can see it right here in the picture. Much brighter than the regular headlight. We'll be telling you more about both of those products a little bit later. Right now, what I'd like you to do is share the show. Get on your phone or on your computer, wherever you may be, share it. And I'll tell you why this is important tonight. It's the first Wednesday of the month. This is the Wednesday. This is the night we give away that great Keith Geisner book, Finding Number 49, all about the Harley-Davidson motocrosser that he located. We're going to be giving that away tonight. But as opposed to doing trivia, whoever shares the page the most, whoever can get the most people to come on and watch it, Susie will be monitoring what goes on with that from her phone. We're going to be giving away that great book, Finding Number 49, to the person who shares the show the most. I'm looking forward to bringing that to you as well. So get on there, share it, let everybody know you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi. YouTube. The YouTube channel, we still need a lot of support on that. A lot of support. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we'll be able to go live on YouTube. It's going to be better for the sponsors, better for the show. You'll be able to watch it from your television live. It'll be really great. So if you get a moment, please go over, subscribe to Vintage Motocross Q&A on YouTube. We'd really appreciate that. As always, our sponsors have been sticking with us. They've been doing a great job, and I hope I've been doing a good job for them. Preston Petty Products, Vmxq&A, Amsoil, FastGuyStuff.com, and of course, Metro Racing. Where'd this shirt come from? Don and Peg Miller at Metro Racing in Pennsylvania. We're going to be making these shirts available to you in the very near future. So right now, while you're at home, still going through this sheltering in place thing, if you need some stuff, give some of our sponsors a shot, please. Vmxq&A, Amsoil, Preston Petty, Metro Racing, and of course, FastGuyStuff.com. Next time, try this. I wanted to bring this to your attention because I get quite often people sending me a text or a message about how to prepare for plating before they send their hardware in for zinc plating. So I put this together to show you a little bit about what I do in order to get things ready. What you're going to need, or some of the problems you have in the beginning, is you want a piece to shine just like you see it right here, and that's got clear zinc on it. But before you get it to look like that, you're going to need to polish it. You want it to look shiny like it does on this axle end or swing arm pivot right here. The other end hasn't been done yet, but I'm going to show you how we accomplish that in the video that's coming up. I used two different types of compound. On this particular piece of hardware, I only had to use the brown because it was very smooth and very dry. Also, you want to degrease that hardware before you start to polish it. First thing you want to make sure when you get out there is you want to have proper safety gear. You want a dust mask. You want to have safety glasses. And of course, you want to have a good pair of gloves like that. This buffing wheel happened to be brand new. I wet it down a little bit before I use it. It helps loosen up the wheel a little, makes it a little softer. Also, the compound, just like when you compound a car, the compound gets a little bit softer on there, moves around a lot more on the hardware. You can see here where I'm moving that bolt, I'm rotating it as the wheel is spinning. I'm turning it to the left and turning it to the right. I add a little bit more water and compound as I go. If you're doing this with the nut, make sure you're doing it to where the nut is tightening. Be careful if you turn it the other way that the nut doesn't come loose on the bolt. Now, once you're done, you're also going to want to do that threaded area as well on that pivot. This way, when you put your nut back on that pivot or axle, whatever you may have, it's nice and shiny on the end, and it looks just as clean as the rest of the hardware you're putting there on the bike. So you can see where I have it all polished on both sides. I would say this piece is now ready for plating. If you have any questions, you could always send me a message. I'll be happy to answer anything, any kind of question that you might have regarding plating. On the phone with me right now is Donnie Holshot Hansen. Donnie, are you there?
I am, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Donnie. You're live on Vintage Motocross Q&A, and it's really great to speak to you. For you people who may not know, and I can't imagine anybody not knowing, Donnie, of course, was the 1982 Supercross and national champion, as well as being on the team of the Motocross the Nations and Trophy the Nations. Did I get that correct, Donnie?
Yeah, we were the first American team to win for our great country.
Okay.
In 81.
Oh, 1981. Yes. Now, Donnie, after your career had closed at that point, you began to start motocross schools, and you've had clinics throughout the country. Tell us a little bit about that.
All right, well, my career ended the following year after I won my Supercross title and national title in 1882. And then I went back to Europe to get ready for the Trophy Motocross the Nations for the second year, and raced the last 250 World Championship in Vimmerby, Sweden, where I won both motos and beat the Europeans. So that's kind of the kickoff of the Americans starting to take over because the Europeans were so badass in the early days. But the motocross school started a couple of years after I retired. So 84 is when that started off, and I did a lot of traveling around different parts of the world, and right now, our homestead is here in Southern California as well as Colorado. So I go back and forth quite often. But I've worked with a lot of the best in the country, or the best in the world.
Yeah, I've noticed that, Donnie. I've seen you practicing down in Southern California. I see some days where you have Ken Roxon out there and so many others. And obviously you have the ability to even teach some of the guys who are professional, like Ken Roxon. They can always pick up tips from you. But tell me about some of the age groups and some of the other classes you might have, either for beginners or amateurs, where you teach them. What are some of the things you do there?
Well, actually, I'm getting ready to leave tomorrow morning early for Colorado. I got a camp that's going off. So I got some private lessons leading up to the camp that's on May 15th to the 17th, a 3-day camp. And I get riders from beginners in their early age to the older riders. But yeah, I do a lot of beginners, a lot of amateur, a lot of novice riders, as well as the more advanced riders. But I've had them as young as 5, and I've had them as old as 75. So, learning when you're young, you're learning the fundamentals as well as the racing techniques that go with it to make you understand and a little more safer when you're out there riding.
Sure. Hey, Donnie, after this Colorado class that's coming up in just a couple of weeks, where is your next school?
I'm going to Wisconsin, Arkansas, Wisconsin. I got a class up there. I got over the Memorial Day weekend, actually May 24th and 25th. So, yeah. Are
there still rooms in all those? Is there room in those classes yet if anybody still wanted to join up?
Not the camp that's coming up the 15th to 17th of May, but the next camp in Colorado is June 12th to the 15th. And so that's fresh, and yeah, there's room there. But Arkansas, Wisconsin, there's a couple spots left.
Okay.
If somebody's interested, they can go to Donnie at DHMA or go to my site, Vmxq&A.com.
All right, Donnie, I've got it up here on the screen where people could see it, and I hope some people take some interest in that. Donnie, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me tonight, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Donnie.
Good to talk with you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Donnie Hansen, go to his page, DHMA, get some great riding tips, and we really don't have too much time on the show, but Donnie has had so many people, successful racers, train under him. It's absolutely incredible. So go over to DHMA, get involved with that, sign up for one of his classes in the near future. You won't regret it. Jordan, what do we got up next? The Moto Showcase, we've got a CZ. It's a 1972 CZ 400 sent in to us from Sean McDonald. And while Jordan scrolls through the pictures a little bit, I'm going to read to you what Sean McDonald has written to us. The 72 yellow tanker was produced for only 1 year. The previous year, it had an up pipe and an orange round tank, and it was a 360. The following year, they went to the traditional coffin tank. Then CZ reverted back to the down pipes, and the frame was modified to have it fit below the engine. This bike was built in partnership with Tom McAllister from Full Circle Racing from the ground up, with everything original down to the plastic ties to hold the ignition wires. British Jawa provided us with chrome wheels and spokes, ignition stickers, seat cables, number plates, and steel. The only thing that's not original are the Mikuni carburetor and the Kernut shocks. Back in '72, the first thing I did to my CZ was to replace the ill-mannered Jykov carburetor and put on some great American Kernut shocks. Motocross Pipe Repair of Nevada took care of all the dents in our pipe and rebuilt the stinger assembly as well. It also has a CZ stamped chain. It's stamped on both sides. Nothing was left to be finished incompletely. It all looks great. The bike like this, Tom says, or Sean says, that bikes like this have been seen to sell at the Mecum auction for as high as $15,000. Very, very possible. Sean McDonald, I want to thank you for sending in that beautiful CZ to us that we just took a look at. Send me your address, and I'm going to get you some Fast Guy Stuff stickers right over to you. Also, I wanted to say to Tom McAllister that Jordan from across the river sends you his regards. He used to be your neighbor, Jordan Woodworth. So he's saying hello to Tom McAllister up there at Full Circle Racing. Let's go on to the next bike, Jordan. What do we got? 1976 Yamaha MX 125. This is a neat little bike with some history that I don't know if a lot of people are really aware of. The great thing about it is it came out the same year as the 76 YZ125C, or it came out in 75 actually. It's got the same engine as a 1976 YZ125C, but it's got the twin shock suspension on it, and it looks a little bit different. This bike was put together and rebuilt by our friend George Lucas from GTL Metal Polishing. I'm going to read to you a little bit about this while Jordan goes through the pictures. It was his first dirt bike that his dad had bought him at Action Cycle in Metuchen, New Jersey. For sentimental reasons, he wanted to go out and get another one. What he did with this bike was go through all the hardware. The engine was rebuilt by Tom Strenhoff from Tom Cycle in Tennessee. He had an NOS crank assembly in it, all the lower bearings, the seals, the complete NOS clutch assembly. It's got new boys and reeds and a 32 millimeter carb. The pipe was cleaned, the silencer and coupler were made by RCM, and Mickey Kessler helped him make the inlet for the pipe for a real nice Sano setup. The frame was powder coated, and for some eye candy, he did the swing arm in silver. He found an NOS hub, front and rear, full circle. Here we go, Tom McAllister, full circle, did the wheels on this bike with Buchanan spokes. I wanted to keep the wheels original and together. The shocks are Kernuts, and I just love everything about the bike. The tank was left original. It's got a little bit of a patina on it. The new seat cover is custom, and I did some carbon fiber things on the triple clamps and a few other pieces on the bike. It took me about 18 months to complete, according to George Lucas. George, I want to thank you too for sending in your bike to us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I think I have your address for GTL Metal Polishing, and I'll get you out some stickers from fastguystuff.com. Once again, Sean McDonald and George Lucas, I want to thank you both for sending in two great bikes for this week's Moto Showcase. Here's the problem. We've got some great questions that came in this week. We did our best to answer them. We even got a really good one about the restoration of an Elsinore. Should you or shouldn't you? And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. Jordan, let's get to the first question. From Oscar Gayton. I know Oscar a long time, but I haven't seen him in a long time. Oscar wants to know, can you discuss the option how we can restore white plastic tanks as found on Can-Ams, Husky tanks, and on some Yamahas? Oscar, for as long as I've been doing this, and there are a lot of other guys who expressly are involved in plastic polishing, there doesn't seem to be a way to truly get that true white back in the plastic. Whatever the combination may be for the white, the gas, when it, of course, gets through that plastic, it stains it, and you can't sand it out. It comes all the way through. There are places that have had some success with sanding them for a while, and they get better, but you're always going to see a little cloud or a little stain on there on the white plastic. I've heard in some instances where people have filled the tanks with water and submerged them in a tub of bleach, or filled it with bleach and submerged it in a tub of bleach. They say it helps a lot. I've spoken to Phil Cox about this. I've spoken to James Sharp about this. They're really, you can get them close, but there's no 100% foolproof way that I have ever found or that I've ever read, and I've tried it, to get them 100%. Oscar, thanks for the question. Jared Wilson, with the cost of parts on the decline, is now a good time to buy parts bikes. I'm specifically after a 76 YZ175. Jared, as a vintage motocrosser, you should know that any time is a good time to buy parts bikes, not just when you're home locked down or when something's bad in the world. You go out there and get yourself a parts bike anytime it's available. But I got a little news for you. Even with a lockdown and maybe money tightening up a little bit, I don't think there's going to be too many people that are going to be loosening up with YZ175 parts that easily. It's the second rarest bike that Yamaha ever made, just behind the 74 YZ360. They're highly sought after, and it's a great bike. You should keep up the hard work on that. Do your best to try and complete that YZ175. A lot of parts are interchangeable with the YZ125C and the YZ125X, but to think that you're going to get out there and maybe find some parts at a discount, well, I wouldn't count on it, but you never know. Keep an eye on eBay. Keep your eye on these swap meet pages. You might just find something special. Thanks for the question. Greg Kendrick, is there a way to save plastic fenders that have cracks around the mounting holes? For the rear fender, yeah, and I'm going to show you how. Actually, you can do it on the front too, but you're not going to have as much success. Right here on the screen, you're going to see a rubber washer and what they call a fender washer. The fender washer is steel, and it's got a 6 millimeter hole through it, but it's much bigger than a regular washer. It's about the size of a quarter. And the same thing goes for the rubber washer that goes with it. What I would recommend is taking out the insulators that you have there and put a fender washer and a rubber washer on both sides of that fender, of that rear fender. Then put your bolt through it and you can tighten it down a lot more. Make sure that the crack is not extended beyond the bigger washers. Otherwise, well, it probably still will stop it, or it'll prevent it from getting any worse. As far as the front fender goes, when they start to crack, you can't really get big fender washers or larger rubber washers like that into a front fender. What you can use is what you see on the picture just below it. It's called a sealing washer, something that a plumber uses. It's a rubber washer, it's cupped a little bit, and it's got it's a steel washer cupped a little bit, and it's got a rubber washer glued right to it. You can do the same thing I just recommended on doing on the back. You can put one over the fender, one under the fender, and if you get it tightened up, you might get some more mileage out of those fenders that are just starting to crack a little bit around the mounting holes. That's the best advice I can give you. It does work. It's great on a race bike. Thanks for the question. Scott Emerson. I have a 1974 Honda CR250. When it comes to collector cars, survivors seem to be as hot and as valuable as restored cars. Would that apply to this type of bike? Should I restore it or leave it alone? Scott Emerson sent me a rather lengthy question, and I trimmed it down to this. I wanted to add that he has the title to this bike, and it does say that it's a 1973. In answer to your question, yes, original cars and bikes, especially these days, when they're in good condition, they always bring more money than a restored car. It's only original once. Here's a picture of Scott's bikes, and from what I can tell, everything looked original about it. I think at some point before he owned it, someone may have repainted the clutch cover. And I think maybe the ignition cover too. That's not uncommon. As Jordan goes through the picture, you'll see. Now, where I see a little paint wearing on the frame here, I would expect to see a little bit of wear on the ignition cover a little bit, certainly on the clutch cover. But all the fasteners and hardware that I can see do appear to be original on this bike. The nipples for the spokes and a little bit of a patina on them look correct to me. It's also got the flat top carburetor on it, which does indicate that it is a 1973. Yeah, can a carburetor be changed? But I don't know why somebody would put a 73 carb on a 74 bike. Everything appears to look in order on this machine, Scott. Now, in answer to your question, should you restore it? Absolutely not. Leave the bike alone. Do not restore it. I mean, it even has the inspection paint still on the swing arm pivot, still on the brake pedal pivot. I would not, by any means, restore this bike. And I know you're a Corvette guy, and you've restored some Corvettes, and you're very meticulous about what you do. But in this instance, do not restore this bike. This tank even still looks pretty good. The thing that I find really incredible about the bike is that that's the original front number plate and band on there. That front number plate is so fragile, they didn't last very long at all. The fact that you found the bike in this condition with obviously the original sticker on the rear fender and the rest of it, do not, under any circumstances, restore this bike. It's really, really special, and it's going to be worth a lot more in the long run than I think any restored bike. Thanks for sending it in. I appreciated all the pictures and the question. I hope I was able to shed some light on this for you. In the What's It Worth segment, I saw a 1974 YZ125 sell. It was late last month on eBay. It sold for $49.50. And I've been keeping an eye on these bikes because I'm kind of I am a Yamaha guy, and I always have been. The 74 YZ and the 75 YZ, of course, were overshadowed by the amazing Elsinore at that time. But as Elsinore seemed to be climbing a little bit more out of reach, there seems to be a little market and guys going after these 1974 YZ 125s. I thought it was a nice bike, $49.50. There were a couple of things at $49.50 I didn't think that were quite original on it. Number one, I don't know why the shocks are like that orange color in the back. Also, I've restored a couple of these, and I don't remember ever seeing a 74 with shouldered rims. The paint looked original. The seat cover, a lot, the cables and things like that looked real nice on the bike. It looked very complete. This was sold from Ken Kaplan at the New England Motorcycle Museum. $49.50. I thought it was a little high, but for what it was, and for as complete as it may be for a guy who may want to really restore one, I think this would be a great place to do that. Also, the other thing that bothered me a little bit were the lower forks were painted black. I don't think it was as original as maybe, well, no, I don't want to put my buddy Ken Kaplan on the spot, but I'm sure that he doesn't always do the write-ups for eBay personally. So there may have been some discrepancies in the description. I don't think it was quite as original as the lister on eBay may have thought it was. But at $49.50, keep an eye on these bikes. They're crawling up there little by little. I don't know if they're going to crack 5,000 anytime soon, and I don't know if we're going to see anything greater than that for a perfectly restored one. For an original one with like no time, I'm sure they would be over 5,000 or 6,000 at this point. But anyway, seems to be worth $49.50. 74 YZ125. In the product spotlight tonight, we have, of course, a Preston Petty product. We are the proud sponsor, or they're the proud sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A, and in turn, we're an authorized dealer for Preston Petty products. So tonight, we're going to show you what we have from Preston Petty. It's their integrated number plate headlight. And this isn't just the old one like you see on the left with a regular light in it. This is the LED. This thing burns really, really bright. And the retail price on this is $139.95. For being a listener and watching the show here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, you can get it for $118.95. You have to go to the Preston Petty website and listen carefully to me. You got to message me. I'll give you a coupon code. When you go to the Preston Petty site, the coupon code will only be good for this Preston Petty headlight. You're going to go to the page, and on the right-hand side, there's going to be a red tab. It's going to say Vmxq&A special. When you click on that, you're only going to be able to buy this headlight at that price with the coupon code. You'll be able to check out and get the discount. You can't go all over their page and buy other things at the same time. You need to just buy the special from Vintage Motocross Q&A with the code I give you. When you check out, you'll get the discount. I want to thank Paul Standard, Preston Petty, for being sponsors of the show. And this special is good for 1 week. Paul has lifted that 3-day time thing that we were going with in the beginning, and he's been generous enough to extend it for a full week. Inbox me, I'll give you the code, get yourself an integrated headlight number plate from Preston Petty products. Vmxq. So happy Vmxq products are back on this month. They've got a great new crankshaft here, and they're making it for the Phantoms, the OSA Phantom, the GP1, GP2, GP3, from 74 to 77. It's $395. Just want to read to you a little bit about this thing, because this crankshaft is completely assembled for your mid-70s 250 OSA, get you back on the track. The complete OSA crankshafts are made with modern materials, manufacturing technique to ensure as good or better fit than OEM. These OSA crankshafts are heavy-duty Yamaha conversion. With the bearing installed, you get the whole kit and caboodle from Vmxq. It fits the GP2, GP3, GP1, 74 to 77. Don't waste time rebuilding your old crankshaft. Go over to Vmxq for $395.95. You'll get the best crankshaft you could possibly put in your OSA. New reproduction, not rebuilt, heavy-duty Yamaha conversion installed, modern design rod bearing. The rich pin bearing is included. Get over to Vmxq after the show. If you're looking for a crank for that OSA, you want to check them out. I want to thank Vmxq for being a sponsor. And I think it's just about time for a Vmxq commercial. Am I correct, Jordan? Commercial break. We're going to find out when we come back from the commercial break who shared the show the most tonight and who will be the winner of the Keith Geisner book, Finding Number 49. Jordan, let that commercial roll.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vmxq knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vmxq. Keep the ride going.
Thank you, Susie. We are back from the Vmxq commercial, and we do have a winner. And Gary Plage from Northern California. Gary, I don't know how many times you shared it. Susie didn't tell me, but she sent me a paper here. It says Gary Plage, and you are the winner of the Finding Number 49, the Harley Davidson book. If you will message me your address, I will be happy to get it into the mail to you immediately. Gary, thank you for all the shares. Thank you for watching the show. And of course, Keith Geisner, thank you for being so generous with so many copies that we're able to give away one every month here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. We've got some announcements for you tonight. Jordan, what do we got first? Oh, VMX Radio. I'm loving this. My Sunday show goes on at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. In the past 3 weeks, we've had interviews with Warren Reed, Scott Burnworth, and last week we had on Arnie Beeman, former mechanic for Jim Pomeroy at Bultaco and Honda. And I think Jordan put together a little thing here, a little audio video thing. You can hear some of the things that Arnie Beeman had to say. Then I'll tell you a little bit more about the radio show when we get back from that. Jordan, what do we got?
And they believed, that they could build a bike that would be competitive for GPs for 74. In 73, their fastest rider was Marcel Werks from Belgium.
Yes.
On a Bultaco. And so they never had anybody on a Bultaco that was that fast, or that would punish a bike that much.
The way Jimmy did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the communist side of the border.
Yeah.
He came back, they were drunk, for one. He had American jeans on, he had these t-shirts on, he had a Pomeroy shirt on, and they freaked out. They grabbed him like, I thought they were going to put handcuffs on.
One of the best stories ever, the one about Pomeroy and Moisiev driving out into the countryside in France and having a heck of a time one afternoon. Go to Vintage Motocross Radio. You can hear the whole interview with Arnie Beeman. This week on the show, I will have Mark Hildebrand. Mark, of course, is the proprietor of Nightmare Racing, produces the finest KX plastic in the world. But Mark also has the most amazing collection of Kawasaki Works bikes you've ever seen. I think he's got, I know he's got a Weinert bike, a Howerton bike. He's got a bike that Steve Wise rode, a bike that Gary Vmxq rode. I will have him on Vintage Motocross Radio this Sunday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will be talking to Mark Hildebrand. Now, before Mark Hildebrand comes on that show on Sunday, a little bit, something happened to me yesterday. I got a call. Jordan, I think it's on the next slide. I got a call from Brock Glover, and he told me to go look at something that's happening on Facebook, and I had missed it. It's called Moto Fight Club. Now follow me here. This is going to be a pay-per-view broadcast. It's going to be a live race next Tuesday. Brock Glover is going to be in it along with Travis Pastrana, Ryan Villapoto, Damon Bradshaw, Kevin Windham, and a host of other guys. That's right. It's in an undisclosed location, so nobody can go in there and interrupt it. It's going to be live, and it's going to be a shootout. They're going to have a race that goes like a lap and a half, 2 guys at a time, and then you get eliminated. Brock told me it's going to be unbelievable. You've never seen anything like this before, and I believe it. I've never even heard of anything like this before. So it's called Moto Fight Club. Moto Fight Club. Here it is right here. This is why kids can't spell. F-I-T-E, Fight Club, K-L-U-B. Good job. Moto Fight Club. It'll be on live stream. It's $20. It's going to be on next Tuesday. You'll get more information on the radio show on Sunday. Mark Hildebrand will be on with me. But in the first 5 minutes or so, I'm going to have Brock Glover on live, and he's going to be talking more about that. Really excited. Go over to Moto Fight Club. We're all going to be watching it next Tuesday. What's happening next, Jordan? Sadly, the week before last, Joe Bolger passed away. Joe Bolger was in the Motorcycle Hall of Fame. He was an inductee in 2004. He was also a 5-time New England Scrambles champion. He was a self-taught designer and engineer and a huge motocross enthusiast. He created or was the inventor of the BLT, the Bolger Long Travel Suspension. You could see it right here in this picture. It's one of the most interesting things you'll ever read about when it comes to suspension in vintage motocross or in motorcycling in general. If you get a moment after the show, you can go on Google, put in Joe Bolger, and you could read all about that. I want to extend my condolences to the Bulger family on the passing of Joe. FastGuyStuff.com, still supplying stickers. Sean Gomes, thank you so much. For everybody out there who's watching, if you want to send a bike in for us to put into the Moto Showcase, send it in to me. Inbox me, send me a message. I'll give you my email address. You can send me pictures a little bit easier that way, a little bit bigger with a little bit more of a description. We'll put it on the show just like we did Sean McDonald's bike this week and George Lucas, and then we'll get you some stickers. Keep everybody involved in the show. So I encourage you to send them in. We'll get your bike on. We'll get you some stickers from FastGuyStuff.com. Vmxq&A, right here. Vintage Motocross Q&A. We still have sponsorship opportunities. We still got opportunities just like we gave to Vmxq, to Amsoil, Preston Petty, and everyone else. In fact, you know what? I wanted to mention a little bit earlier that I used a couple of different Amsoil products this week. This assembly lube, I absolutely love the metal protector that they use. This is really a step above anything else I've ever used. Any kind of silicone spray, certainly above WD-40. And this I put in my air tools. Synthetic air tool oil available from Amsoil. I want to thank Russell Waters and Amsoil for sticking by us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, but you too could be getting the same benefits that Preston Petty, Amsoil, Vmxq, that they're all getting by being a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Drop me a line. I'll send you a proposal. We could talk about a custom thing for you that you can afford, and we'll get you on as a sponsor at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Well, that's it for the show tonight. I want to thank you all for joining me. It's great to be back. Don't forget the radio show on Sunday at 4 p.m. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm Joe Abadi. Have a good night.